I know that banner right there seems weird. Title of this video seems weird. That a man whose jersey number is now retired across the entire NBA. Bill Russell's number 6 is retired across the whole NBA. Well, you might say, well, first, how is LeBron James wearing the number 16? The rules stated that if you're already wearing the number 6, then you're basically grandfathered in, meaning you can go ahead and keep wearing it. But going forward, it won't be issued to anybody else. So again, you might say, well, first, what the hell are you talking about? How can a man whose jersey number is retired across the whole league, how is he underrated? We call him the greatest winner. He's in the Hall of Fame. Pretty much everybody got him in their top 10. How is he underrated? Here's how. Because this man was even more than we give him credit for. That's how he's underrated. Like, however you feel about him, even if you hold him in high esteem, he still was even more than that. And that's my just initial reaction to watching his documentary, Legend. I highly recommend it to all of you real ones. Let's talk about some of my takeaways from it. Okay? But before we do, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing to hit that button. All you gotta do is do that right there. That's all. If you're watching on your computer, use your mouse, do that right there. That's all. Okay? It costs you nothing to hit that button. I am your homeboy first, and this is the realest, most entertaining sports show in the game. Put it on something. Okay? Join the channel, become an official member. Become one of the realest ones. Hit that Cashapp. Feel free to hit that Cashapp. Anything you give does go back into the company as we continue our quest to be the Amazon, the Walmart of black culture, okay? I thoroughly enjoyed the doc. There's 2 parts to it. The overall thing I got from it is this was a man who went through so much as a superstar. I gotta say that part because whatever he going through, the other black players of that time going through it too now. But to go through it as a superstar, I mean, you got the weight of having to go out there and perform at a very, very high level, and you got to deal with all the rest of the shit too. Okay. And he did it. And was a winner through and through. He won in college. He won at the Olympics. And we all know he won in the NBA. As a player and also as player coach. Who else did that? Like that right there is something folks really don't talk about as much. This motherfucker won 2 championships as a player coach. That's nuts. That's nuts. Okay? But the shit that those guys had to endure back then is in stark contrast to what we see right now. Y'all have seen it's become a meme now. With Brun going and pointing out the fan to get them thrown out the game. We know Russell Westbrook has done that. We've seen a lot of guys do that now. Bill Russell was playing in a game and being called a coon. They told him to go back to Africa, you baboon. To a white player that he was playing against, they told him, don't get chocolate on you. His own fan base sided with Bob Cousy. They favored Bob Cousy, who was the star before Mr. Russell joined the team. But once Mr. Russell joined the team, that's when they started to win those championships. And they still favored Bob Cousy. When Bob Cousy retired, Mr. Russell said some idiot came up to him and said, well who gonna carry y'all now that y'all ain't got Bob Cousy? And Mr. Russell had to tell him, well, you need to go contact somebody and see who was the MVP of this league the last few years. Because that was Mr. Russell. You understand? This is his own fan base. This is his own fan base. When he moved into this neighborhood, this town called Reading, Massachusetts, a little bit outside of Boston, they didn't welcome him there initially. Then after the championship started rolling in, finally they tried to honor him with Bill Russell Day. But then when he tried to move into another house in a different part of the town, these motherfuckers signed a petition to keep him from doing that. This is his own fan base. When he would go out of town, they would kick his damn garbage cans over. They would threaten his kids. The police do nothing about it. He had to go buy a gun. When he and his wife went out on vacation, they broke into his house, shitted in his bed, put the N-word all over the walls, ransacked the place. This is his fan base. And he still went out there and led that team to championships. He still stood as a man. They came to the South and to Lexington, Kentucky. You know what Kentucky Wildcats play. All those black boys, they be getting with the one and done under the leadership of Calipari. Came down there and faced racism. To Mr. Russell and the other black players said, well, shit, we ain't playing. Stood as a man. Stood as a man. He stood with Muhammad Ali when Ali was to be with Ali at that time. Kind of made you a target too. Don't let how these folks talk about Muhammad Ali today fool you. The way Kaepernick is treated today by racists was on 10 with Muhammad Ali. Bill Russell stood by him. 1964, it was hot down here in Mississippi. I ain't just talking about the weather. Talking about in terms of the racial tension, in terms of the violence at the hand of these white supremacists down here. But Mr. Russell came on down. He was asked by Medgar Evers' brother, Charles Evers, to come on down and try to help with the morale of the movement. Medgar had been murdered. We also know during Freedom Summer 1964 that those 3 civil rights workers got murdered. I'm just framing things for you to show you how dangerous it was in Mississippi. Mr. Russell came down here to do some basketball clinics. This man was dedicated to being a man. He was dedicated to his people. He was a very thoughtful man, very brilliant man. In the damn doc, he's talking about trying to treat basketball the way Michelangelo treated painting. Like, this is some different level thinking. He's underrated. In the basketball sense, Let's go basketball. You think it's some of the most iconic shit you can think about, like LeBron's chase down block. Did you know Mr. Russell had a play very similar to that? It was the deciding game of his first championship. If he doesn't make this play, the other team takes the lead. Sound familiar? But we got this recency bias. Did you know that he too came back from a 3-1 deficit? Now, it wasn't in the finals, but quite often he faced his fiercest opponent in his own conference. And that was Will Chamberlain when he was with the 76ers. Came back from a 3-1 deficit. Sound familiar? We can go back off the court. This man had a talk show. I got to go find this shit on YouTube. The man had a talk show. I never heard this. He did some acting. I never knew that. Now, I did know that he had become an analyst because during my Michael Jordan research, I hear Bill Russell calling some games. But all this shit, this man lived a whole life. He didn't have a public ceremony when his jersey got retired from the Celtics. Because he didn't want them goddamn fans mixed in that shit. He said he played for the Celtics, not for Boston. Whew. I hear you, Mr. Russell. Initially, he declined his induction to the Basketball Hall of Fame, in part because he felt like the Hall of Fame was racist. I hear you, Mr. Russell. Now, eventually, he would have a public ceremony for his jersey getting retired and everything. Finally, I think in the 90s. And him and Wilt had fallen out. They were friends. I've told y'all that before. But they had fallen out about some remarks that Mr. Russell made after they had beaten Wilt when he was with the Lakers. And it was in a deciding game, and Wilt did something to his knee and checked out of the game, basically. The coach refused to put him back in. The coach told him, once Wilt was like, I'm ready to go back in, Wilt, the coach basically told Wilt, go fuck yourself. We don't need you. And so Russell, kind of criticized Wilt for checking himself out or whatever. He basically said, if your leg ain't broke, you got to play. So they kind of fell out after that. But when he got his jersey retired, Wilt was there. And they rekindled their relationship. He lived the whole life. He went on to coach the Supersonics and the Kings. You've heard Kenneth Smith talk about that. I think Mr. Russell coached Kenneth Smith, of Inside the NBA on TNT. I think he coached him with the Kings. Briefly. His stint with the Kings didn't last long. But he had already had goddamn 2 championships as a player coach with the Celtics. He stood with Kaepernick, excuse me. He kneeled in a viral picture. He said like he kind of felt Kaepernick because during his time he was looked at as while Wilt was accessible and out there and really just focused on himself, his money, and living that life, fucking these women. Bill Russell was always thinking about being a man, thinking about his people. And you see how he kind of get there from his pops, because his pops left Monroe, Louisiana, where Bill was from, Mr. Russell, excuse me. And he talked about his dad asked for a raise. And the white man told him he couldn't give him a raise because then he'll be making as much money as the white man. Called him N-word, all that kind of stuff. Mr. Russell's dad had said, I got to leave here before I kill one of them or they kill me. He stood as a man. And that goes into how Mr. Russell one day said one of the best quotes I've ever heard. He said, if I don't have my manhood, I don't have anything. Simple, but powerful. If I don't have my manhood, I don't have anything. I strongly encourage all of y'all to watch that. You got numerous books out here now that I'm aware of. I'll be copping at least one of them, whichever one is supposed to be the definitive Bill Russell biography or autobiography, I should say. I just want to learn more about him. This is a man that was averaging 20 points, 20 boards, and he got to be the all-time leader in block shots. Blocks wasn't officially a stat during his time. No, currently Hakeem Olajuwon is the career leader in block shots, but bare minimum, he had to be getting you 20, 20, and 5. This man was bigger than basketball. And so when you're bigger than basketball, I think it's inappropriate and a disservice to him to just limit him to basketball when we discuss him. He is undoubtedly one of the greatest basketball players of all time, arguably the best defender ever. But he's also one of the greatest men ever from the sports world. So long live Mr. Russell. And make sure y'all go check out that doc. All right? Put it on something.
Thank you so much for watching my daddy's YouTube channel. Make sure you like, share, and turn on your post notifications. Okay, how do I do it?